Getting at a low ELO is tough, and the truth is that most players never escape the low ranks. But that's because they're making a fundamental mistake that you need to avoid in order to rank up. And if you start consciously avoiding this mistake, you're gonna get a low ELO in no time. When you queue into a game of Valorant, do you have a plan in mind, or do you just go with the flow and switch up how you play every game? And you gotta be honest with yourself here, because it's extremely important. If you're someone who doesn't have an agent and position you play on each map, and you don't have a plan in mind when you play in that position, then that's the first thing you need to fix to get a low ELO. Playing on autopilot is very common, but it's detrimental to your progress and how fast you'll actually be able to rank up. The main problem with autopiloting, as I call it, is that you don't really have something you're trying to improve on, but you instead just play for the sake of it, and don't reflect at all on what went wrong or right for that matter. Now don't get me wrong, you can definitely improve like this and get out of iron, bronze, silver, etc. But once you get up to the mid ranks, like plat and around there, it's gonna get a lot harder, and there's just really no reason for doing this. If you don't feel in the mood for focusing on a game, then simply don't queue into one. You're just gonna make it harder for yourself and your teammates. And if you really feel like playing but you're not that focused right now, then just go into an unranked game. There's no point in playing ranked when you're not at your best. So what do you do to stop autopiloting and actually start improving? Well, the first thing I do is have an overall plan for how I want to play. I choose which agent or role I want to main and play the majority of the games like that. This doesn't mean that you have to insta-log one agent every game, but if that's what you want to do, then you're definitely gonna speed up your progress. After choosing an agent, you want to have a set way you like to play on each map. This might be that you as Jet like to peek from on top of the generator on Icebox and then dash back to rafters if you're getting pushed. Now you obviously want to have multiple ways of playing that you default to, but try to find one playstyle that you like and an area on each map that you like playing on. You're gonna familiarize yourself with that area and playstyle really quickly, and by doing that you'll improve way faster than if you played on all the sides with all different agents. By having a plan on what you want to do each round, you also drastically minimize the risk of you getting caught off guard, as you've already made the decisions beforehand on what you're gonna do, and those tend to be a lot more rational than doing whatever you feel like in the moment. This will also lower the amount of stupid decisions you make, such as pushing or rotating for no reason. Picking an agent and playstyle that's gonna suit you is hard, so I suggest just going for one that you think seems cool and playing that agent for a certain amount of games, probably around 10 to 50 to get enough experience with the agent without wasting your time playing an agent that you're not gonna end up maining. And remember, these games shouldn't only be throwaway games where you play without thinking, as that's gonna get you nowhere. You wanna instead use those games for experimenting with different ways of playing to see how you feel about that agent. You might think that you already know which agents you like and which of them you don't, but I disagree. If all you've done so far is playing agents without really learning much about them and what you can do with them, then you haven't really used that agent to their full extent, and I'd advise you to do so before fully deciding on which ones you like the most. Autopiloting actually happens outside of the game as well. How many Valorant tips videos have you watched? 10, 50, 100? I'd be willing to bet there's probably at least a few dozen. Yet somehow you're still low ELO. And I don't blame you, because it's a really easy and common mistake to be doing. But that's because you're doing the exact same thing on YouTube as you are in game, mindlessly watching videos without actually applying the tips. The reality is that you probably don't need to watch more than a few videos like this to actually get out of low ELO. It's shockingly simple once you've understood the fundamentals and you start working on them. But there lies the problem. Most people don't. The amount of time you put into something really doesn't matter that much if you're not focused and actually learning from your mistakes and applying the stuff you learn. Let's make up a scenario where we have two guys that's into basketball. One of them plays with his friends and has spent around 5,000 hours doing so, while the other guy has spent half of that time, but the majority of those hours was in a focused team environment where he actually fixed his weaknesses. Who do you think is the better player? It's pretty obvious that it's the guy who's taking the sport seriously, right? Now apply that to Valorant. I'm not saying you can never play for fun, but if you actually want to get a high rank, then make a plan and start focusing when you play. But this won't help you unless you know the fundamentals that you need to work on, so click on the video on the screen and I'll see you guys there.